education reform gets revised. Today we talk with the teachers' unions about their role in what will become law and their ideas on how best to improve Connecticut schools. Also, Attorney General George Dixon is here to talk about the latest coming out of the AG's office, new programs and efforts to help and to protect Connecticut residents. And then there are all sorts of efforts to stop the violence, but maybe you haven't heard about this one. It's a unique fusion of classical and rap music aimed at getting young people to hear and embrace a message of nonviolence. Welcome. You're watching The Real Story. I'm Laurie Perez. Well, everybody is talking education this weekend. What should or should not go into the reform bill that lawmakers are now considering. Here now to talk about the debate to make Connecticut schools even better than they are, the president of the American Federation of Teachers of Connecticut, Sharon Palmer, also the executive director of the Connecticut Education Association, Mary Loftus Levine, current reporter Kathy Meghan, and Capitol reporter for Hearst, Connecticut newspapers, Ken Dixon. Thanks all of you for being here. Let's start with you. I know that, a lot of the process and the outcome is now getting criticized, and I'm sure that you guys are used to being kind of blamed for it, but explain why you think it's wrong to kind of put the onus on you for the revisions and what some people call a weakening of the bill.
Well, we don't think it's a weakening of the bill. Actually, we think the changes make the bill stronger. The teachers are the adults in the room with the children. They've stepped up to the plate, done the best they can. We think that the new bill will help teachers improve their practice, which in turn will help children. And we're hoping that the bill pretty much stays intact, perhaps with a few revisions, and moves forward to be passed by the General Assembly.
Mary?
Yeah, we've both reviewed the bill. I think everyone has, and I was just going over it again today. We're very excited about raising standards for teachers. One now only has to get 30 random credits before you can qualify for an advanced certificate, and now the bill requires a master's in a relevant area. We think it's wonderful that the bill was amended, not watered down, by increasing the number of slots for early childhood. And we think that that's a wonderful addition. We also are extremely happy with the fact that we will now have a more collaborative process for our most needy schools, and more parent engagement, more teacher input, and we think that, and we know from research that that's what really works to transform our schools.
But why has that tenure piece been so contentious, and why has that been kind of getting the headlines?
I think it all started in January, and I think the soundbite turned into a media storm, and I think that what people don't understand in Connecticut is that tenure is not a job for life, and they're comparing our fair dismissal law with tenure on the higher ed college level, and there's absolutely no comparison. Our fair dismissal law right now, and I might add in the new bill, in the substitute bill, there still is no final binding decision by an arbitrator. The arbitrator will only recommend in this current version a decision on whether someone should be dismissed or not based on ineffectiveness, which is what everybody seems to want. And it still goes back to a Board of Ed to make the final decision. So I think there's a lot of misinformation out there.
And if I may add, people need to know that tenure is nothing more than the process by which teachers are, quote-unquote, fired. And it's not a piece of paper that you hang on the wall when people say, I have tenure. That just means that you have a right to a hearing and nothing more.
Sharon, have you said in the past, I thought that I'd heard this through you or through the spokesman for the AFT, that you would be okay with abolishing tenure and replacing it with due process?
Yes, and just cause, absolutely. We think that the process that other personnel that work in a school building, unionized workers across the state, all have a process that's called just cause. And we would be happy with that.
Would you also, Mary?
Absolutely. We've been together working for 2 years now. We brought this forward at the end of the last session, and it still hasn't made its way into the bill. So, yes, we would absolutely be in favor of a due process just cause standard like school custodians have, like state workers have, and all it does is give you the right to a hearing.
So why don't, go ahead.
Is this why then the evaluation was separated from the tenure issue in what you guys were developing?
I don't know. They've always
sure.
been linked, and they're still linked, because the evaluation has to be linked to tenure.
Well, why is the governor been kind of like hung out to dry every time he appears in public? And I mean, he said some imprudent things about teachers, but he's going into hostile environments. I've been in places where 400 teachers are acting like it's 8th grade, they're 8th graders, and he's the substitute teacher.
I haven't been at any of the hearings, but we actually have been monitoring them, and I think in 1 or 2 instances people have spoken out inappropriately. I think that when you attack people's livelihood, ability to have a license to continue to work, and you say things that are rather inflammatory to start off the legislative session, I think a lot of teachers feel very demeaned by that, and they are already overworked. They feel that all the burden is on them for closing the gap. And I think that their anger comes out sometimes in very negative ways. And unfortunately, I think that what we've tried to do, and I think we have at both organizations, we're really working to have teachers have very civilized, and they have been, back-home meetings with legislators so that they can talk about what goes on in the classroom every day so their stories can be heard. And I really believe that it wasn't the unions that got the bill changed. It was because legislators listened to their constituents.
I think, if I may, the reason teachers were so upset is because of the unknown. The bill was equated with the PEAK process, which is a committee that's working on evaluation procedures. The problem with that is all you have is like a table of contents of a book, and the rest of the pages in the book are blank. The work is not done. Now, if you're going to be evaluated on that, you want to know what the process is. Even when members called us and said, "What does this mean?" we couldn't answer them, because the work is not done. So people were left to interpret things as they wished, and some of them became very upset.
But do you think that he has a point, though? Because I've been to several of the meetings, and he keeps trying. It's almost as if he's educating the teachers about where that evaluation process is. They seem to ask questions, but they seem to ask questions that imply that they don't know where it is.
But he's the person who was wrong.
Right.
Has spent a long time talking about an evaluation system. There is no evaluation system, and we have spent a long time trying to correct that. All there is a brief framework like a table of contents. And so when he said the unions agreed to the evaluation system, that's incorrect.
Right.
He's still saying that.
I know that.
Yeah, he actually stopped for a few weeks, and now he's back, I noticed yesterday, to saying system again. What we've agreed to, and our members know, and all our publications, both organizations put out a lot of publications, a lot of emails. Our teachers know the difference between agreeing to a framework, which is nothing more than a pie chart, and now we have to come up with the guidelines and a system and a model plan. And when he speaks, he leaves people with the impression that all that work is done when we haven't even begun it.
Right. So what do you disagree with the governor as far as linking tenure and evaluations? What's the sticking point there? Because he has said that he was unhappy with the revised bill partly because of what happened to the linking of tenure and evaluation in the bill. And he wants to change back to the original bill on that issue.
Well, the original bill goes a lot further than just linking an evaluation to an employment decision. What the bill originally did, which has now been amended, it not only did that, And what really was upsetting, I think, the most for teachers, all dismissal processes that are involving effectiveness are based on your evaluation. So another sort of false premise is that's happening now. It always has, in places where administrators actually evaluate teachers. Number two, the process that is in the first bill linked your evaluation to your license to teach, and then took it 2 steps further. It linked that to your salary schedule, and you could actually be demoted from a professional certificate to an initial, which ultimately would run out and you would be left with no certification. So when you followed the maze that the bill created, the teachers figured that out really quickly, and that's what they're talking about. They have an in-depth knowledge of all these systems that are being upended.
So what's going to happen? The Appropriations Committee has voted out a budget with $4 million for evaluation, and that was today, Thursday.
We were
where do you guys
shocked by that.
Where are you guys going?
I don't know where you're going with $4 million to put in a massive overhaul of tenure and evaluation.
But certainly we want the peak committee to move forward with definition to all those terms and procedures that aren't there at this point, and get a system in place so that we can begin piloting it and using it this coming school year. We'd like to see that done.
In fact, we sent a letter today that we had drafted before the bill came out, and wanted to wait and see what was going to happen. And we actually forwarded it today from CEA to the commissioner with our understanding of where we are and advocating for the process to speed up, because we were very close to an agreement on guidelines in August. And when the new commissioner came on board, all that work was stopped. And I understand he needed to play catch up, and he needed to see what was going on and get an assessment of the state. But we were all on hold, and the committee never met from August to December when he reconvened us. So we're about 6 months behind as a group because we weren't allowed to meet, and that never comes out either in any of the media.
Well, we are out of time. I know we could go on and on about this, and I'm sure that we will in the weeks to come and in the rest of the session. We appreciate you taking time to tell us about your points, and thanks both of you for coming to ask some good questions.
Thanks.
Coming up, the Attorney General is here. He has news to help you if you have mortgage trouble, and he's also going to give us the latest on the NU-NSTAR merger. That's next.